Hang on. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the final installment of the 2021 player previews. I'm Terry. Tonight, I'm joined by my man, Lek Dog. He's going to finish these off for us. Mate, what's going on?
Oh, mate, just pumped to be talking Carlton. Not long. How long is it? 6 sleeps or something? 7 sleeps till the game? Jeez, I'm excited.
6 days, mate. 6 days. It's actually here. I feel like once Monday hits and it's game week and the radio's talking about it and Fox Footy's talking about it, it's going to be next level. But what are your feelings at the moment?
Oh, I'm just bubbling with nervous energy. It feels like footy's back. I've kind of erased last year from my memory. I'm just ready to get into it. Go and sit at the footy, watch it with my dad, watch it with friends, and slightly annoying. It's going to be a little difficult to get tickets, but hey, we'll work through that and we'll enjoy it one way or another.
Yeah, 100%. Main thing is they're going to be playing in front of a crowd. I feel like there's going to be some disappointed people. Obviously, it's just the way it goes. But the main thing is we get as close to the real stuff as possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, hey, cheer loud, because even if you're not at the ground, I feel like it helps.
Yeah. Well, let's turn the focus. Just want to get your thoughts before we start the previews. Just on the preseason, what have you seen, and what are your takeaways from the preseason?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I think obviously we brought in some pretty high, big name recruits in Saad and Williams. We brought in Fogarty too. We brought in a couple of steals of the draft picks in Durden and Carroll and Parks as well. We've brought in a few players, but the club's kind of kept a lid on it a little bit. A lot of the hype, I feel like, has been about guys like Caleb Marchbank and David Cunningham and guys coming back from injury. So I think that the club's trying to keep a lid on it. I'm pumped for these big names to come out and dominate. Obviously, Williams won't be round one. Little concern. There are some concerns, obviously, around fitness of our players and availability in round one. I don't know if you're as worried about that as I am, Tez, but there's a few names who have question marks, and that's stressing me out a bit.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. The way I heard Andrew Russell talk about Harry just sort of said to me, oh, okay, he's in that maybe we don't risk him basket. That was my honest takeaway from the way he said what he said about Harry. That's how I felt. And then obviously I'm starting to think, well, if Harry doesn't play, does that mean Oscar McDonald's playing? Is Levi ready? Is he underdone? So I don't want to get too negative, but those are the thoughts about Harry.
Yeah, well, look, two things. I think it's interesting that whenever we put out an injury report on the website, under there is a video of Paddy Cripps talking about how much he loves the club. I think that's intentional. But the other thing is maybe, we spent all last year saying that the 3 tolls doesn't work and that it sucks. So maybe this is an opportunity round one to try a bit of chaos ball, play a bit smaller than we otherwise would, and see if we can sneak a win that way, because the 3 tolls hasn't worked for a couple of years against the Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really seen it. We haven't really seen the 3 of them that are meant to be part of the 3, first of all. And then even when we've had 3 tolls, I think you're right. We've looked a little, I'll call it lumberous, if that's a word.
Yeah, look, Jack Martin kicked 4 against them last year. So, I mean, we're probably talking too much about next week, but maybe the smalls are the ones that break through. Was anything stand out for you from the first preseason game, the actual official preseason game?
Yeah, just the speed in which we move the ball. I mean, I thought we showed it a little bit last year in 2020, probably more so for like that 5 or 6 week patch where when we were moving the ball, transitioning from defense to offense, it was like, oh wow, this is finals football. Whereas now I think we've still got that another year of them all together, plus Saad and eventually Williams when he comes back into the team. I'm almost mindful to see, are we too quick, and are we going to be able to play both quick and a bit more methodical as well? I just think the pieces are there. Yeah,
so you've definitely are more half full than I am. So what my notes said, because you're right, we were moving quickly, absolutely, and that was awesome to see. But I was more focused on the ball moving really quickly the other way. And they Saints kicked quite a few goals over the top of us. That happened to us a fair bit last year. People just running through the midfield, lack of stopping power. I'm telling myself it was a preseason game and we actually do have plans for that and everyone was just having a jog, but I'm slightly worried. And maybe we move it so fast that we attack more and we outscore our opponents. Maybe that's how we do it. But I was a little worried about the defensive side of things from the one hit out we had. But then again, against Essendon, it was kind of an Essendon side. We dominated. So, I'm hopeful. But I'm just wondering where our defence, maybe if Wiedering can't stop every single ball. I guess that's my concern.
Well, when we've kicked the first 5 goals of the game next Thursday night, I think all the not all the worries will be gone because we did that in 2018 as well. But it's all about the fast start, I think. Yeah,
I've got a couple other notes from the game, and these are unfiltered notes I wrote at the game. J sauce is the superior sauce. So I wrote that. That's a thing I said. Goat Mac, I'm assuming that's referring to Oscar McDonald, the GOAT. And the other exciting thing for me this year we've seen from the preseason, it's the combination of Fisher and Murphy playing in those sort of half-forward-y, push up the ground, up the wing rolls. I actually thought we should have done that more with Murph last year, but he's a nice link-up player. He can kick those short kicks pretty well and hit the scoreboard. And then, geez, Fisher. I'm so excited for Fisher this year. I know you're a big fan too.
Yeah, no, he's my boy. I love him. He's just he's a great player. He's a great human. He's actually just a great human. I'm happy for him in terms of I feel like he really has matured.
Yeah, particularly, you hear the stories, and I'm sure every Carlton fan talks about this. He didn't want to play small forward. Then he called the coach, said, yeah, I'll do it. And then we were worried, like, are we going to trade him in the off-season? He wasn't happy. He's a WA boy. And then he looks like he's just owned it. And I think he's going to force himself into a more more lucrative role in the team just by pure effort and skill because he's got it in buckets.
Yeah, I think the one thing about him that I noticed in the St Kilda game, he moves a lot off the ball. He's annoying. He's annoying. Like he's annoying for his defender. He's always moving, and that doesn't get seen on TV. But when you're there and you're fixated on certain players, I noticed he moves a lot and just creates. You just got to think about him. Where is he at all times? And I think that's what the hallmark of a great small forward is. So look, again, preseason game, the real stuff starts on Thursday. So as long as he's doing that on Thursday, that's all that matters. But mate, it's good to it's so good to be talking about this stuff. Goodness me.
It's so exciting.
Yeah. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to finish off the player previews for the season. I think we've got 8 or 9 to get through. So there's quite a few. Everyone at home that's watching, obviously, welcome to the last installment of the player previews. And thank you for your time and attention throughout this preseason. It's been a long one. For us, but we are finally here. So you guys are going to have the chance to have your say about the players that we cover tonight. We're going to go from number 34 all the way to number 46, Matty Cottrell. And as we always do, it's very interactive. So feel free to share your thoughts and I'll try and get as many of them up here while we're talking. Let Dog, mate, shall we get a start on?
I think we should.
All right.
So who's the first player? Sam Philp.
Yeah, the first player is number 34, Sam Philp. He was the surprise packet in terms of when we drafted him. We weren't sure, but he just sort of came up out of nowhere. He played a couple of games last year, so we got to see him. He's got those things. He's got some tricks. He's got the speed. He's got the explosiveness. He's obviously nursing I think it's a hammy complaint at the moment, or he's nursing a soft tissue complaint, lower leg. What are you expecting, if anything, from him this year? And you guys at home as well.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. We gave up a bit to get him in, or we didn't give up a bit, but we moved down the order to pick him up and then traded back in. Just the 2 games last year, with the highlight being 9 disposals against the Saints, kicked a goal that game too. I don't expect much from him this year, and I think a few of the players we're going to talk about, just by the way of the role that they play, that sort of 40 small forward type role, are going to fit into this. I don't expect a lot because I expect us as a club to be trying to play our best 22 every single week. I don't think it's a year where we're going to try and develop players in the seniors. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if, but I think the club's going to do whatever it can to get into finals. I don't know if Philp works into that equation. I think unless he starts dominating the twos, which I've got question marks over. He's still pretty slight. He's only 19. I'm not sure he'll get much senior exposure, but I'm really, really looking forward to seeing Carlton reserves play and see him play for them.
Yeah, apologies for my mistake. Bucky, good evening to you, mate. He's confirmed here that it's a hip concern, and Russell was talking about the power of young Sam Philp. So it's not a hammy, it's a hip. So apologies for that. But yeah, when I think of Sam Philp, and this is probably something that maybe not all of us fans are used to right now, but a second-year player not playing AFL football, like, that's okay. All of a sudden, we have the ability to say, okay, what's our development program like? Now, last year, very much impacted, obviously, for obvious reasons. Corona, the hub, the 12-on-12, the Mickey Mouse, Auskick games. You can't really get proper development into our youngsters. But I think this year is going to be the first year for a guy like Sam Philp to actually play in some reserves games against actual competition, proper umpired games, and it's going to be a test of our development. We're going to see what's happening at the lower level.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. We're at a point now where the club doesn't have to play all their first rounders straight away and pump 50 games into them. And people worry about when young guys aren't playing senior footy, but that's kind of what good clubs do. They develop in the twos. And I think Phil's got a real opportunity to carve out a space in that reserves team and really work on his craft. And hopefully at some stage in the next year or two, we see him, coming in and making an impact at AFL level. I'm really excited that we don't have to play him, and there's a couple of guys in this boat as well. And a couple of guys we've drafted recently, like Kemp, who we drafted. He was injured. He didn't get to play last year. Whereas 4 years ago, we're drafting Sam Walsh. And it's like, you're our best player now, so go and win us the game, please. Like, it's nice to come that we've come along a bit.
Yeah. So my next question is, and again, for you guys at home, what is Sam Philp? Is he a midfielder? Is he a forward? Is he both? Is he a halfback flanker? I understand we're very much a hybrid team. We have hybrid players that play multiple positions. But when he does come in, is he going to be that pressure forward? What are you thinking about that?
I've literally got in my notes here on the screen, I don't know where his best position is.
Yeah.
I think we always just kind of throw pressure forward because it's not someone we've really had in the team for a while. We always just throw that up as an option for our young guys. We're like, he'll come in, he'll be a pressure forward, it'll be fine. I don't know if that's his best role. He might be an undersized midfielder that comes in and dominates and loves the contested stuff. I just don't know that yet. Knowing how our club works, we will play him in the forward line until he has carved out a role somewhere else in the team, because it seems to be the entry point for us at the moment. Go and play in a forward pocket, and if you're good enough, we'll keep you in the side.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Bryce Richards says he thinks a good season in the reserves will help Philp. He thinks, sadly, we now have too many players pushing for his position currently. However, with players like Murph to retire this year, a good VFL season may help him to be firing for 2022. Yeah, fair point. Pommy, good evening to you, mate. Says, Philp, like a few in this segment, will be charged with asking the question week in, week out. Yeah, I like that. Bucky says we need some specialist wingers. There you go. Because you want to see his speed, right? You want to see this power. He kind of reminds me, I know it's very early, but he reminds me of a David Cunningham type mover with the power through the legs and the surge out of congestion. But that's just a very, very early observation. And when I hear Russell talk about how he's a powerful athlete and the burst of speed and whatnot, I just imagine, and the fact that we've played him as a pressure forward, I imagine a David Cunningham type player.
Yeah, well, the wing position's a really good call. We don't have any specialised. I think we're going to see a few rotate through there this year. I think we're going to see a couple of players, even one we're going to talk about a bit later, that they're going to try and turn into that position. But I think that's going to be the place where if we can get some of our speedy players, Philp has that, maybe that's where they start to carve a niche.
Okay. I like it. Let's move on. But I think it's good signs for Philp in terms of the development. Obviously, want to get this hip under control and get him healthy and then just see what he can do. So let's move on. Number 35, Mr. Curnow. Now, Charlie gets all the attention whenever it's funny. If you type in Curnow in Google, you don't see a photo of Ed. But when you look at what this guy's been able to do over his career for us, he debuted in round 1, 2011. Why is he so overlooked? He's been a warrior for this football club.
Well, he might be overlooked outside the club, but inside the club, we know he's loved. He was third in the best and fairest this year. What is he, 31 now? And we picked him up in like round 6 or something in his draft. Like, he was a throw at the stumps, and he's 18 games off playing 200 games. So he's likely going to hit 200 games this year, which is huge. And he's a beast. He was 7th for total tackles last year. Like, he tackles a lot. He's in the fray. He plays week in, week out. He leaves it all out on the park. He's always bruised and battered, but he just finds a way to play. And he's really like the heart and the soul of our guts. Like, there's days where Cripper doesn't stand up, or he's injured last year, and Murph sometimes disappears. There's a lot of players that have question marks throughout a game for us. Ed Curnow, I never have a question mark over. He is just, I know what I'm going to get. He's always really high in my votes, and yeah, third in the best and fairest says it all from last year.
Yeah, I like to use the phrase minimum standard with players, and I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of players, even the great ones, when they have bad ones, they have shockers. When Ed Curnow has a bad game, he might not be winning as much of the ball or whatever the case may be. He always finds a way to impact, whether it be blocking, tackling, whatever the case may be. But, the reality is, let's have a look at this. It says here on his profile on the club website, pick 89 in the 2013 rookie elevation. Okay. And he's played 182 games. A rookie.
Oh, that's right. He was a rookie. Yeah, that's right.
A rookie's about to. Well, I would assume. I don't think this is his last year personally. I don't know about you and you guys at home. I think he's got plenty of football left. And also a little clip that was on the club's Instagram. I think it was yesterday. You got young Liam Stocker, who were all asking about where's Stocker, and you've got him tackling Ed Curnow and Ed throwing Stocks around. Like, he's strong. He can run. He's an endurance beast, and I feel like there's this notion that he's got to be replaced. And for the most part, I agree in the sense that, yeah, I want someone like a Liam Stocker to force Ed Curnow out of the side. But right now, how could you possibly have Ed out of the side,
Oh, you can't. Look, for how many years? 10 years now he's been at the club, and he gives you 21 disposals a game and 5 tackles, and we don't have anyone to take that off him. Like, he's just going to keep doing that. I think at the moment we saw him play a little bit more on the outside in the wings in the preseason game against Essendon especially. I think that's due to what we just talked about, a lack of specialised wingers. Maybe that's where they try and sit him, because he's a pretty good runner. So maybe they try and sit him on the outside a bit more this year, give some space for a Walsh to grow on the inside. He's for sure still in our best 22. And ideally, I think the ideal situation for him, he gets to 200 games this year, we win the flag, yada, yada, yada. And then next year, he's not guaranteed a spot because a couple other players are pushed up and he only plays, 15 games or 10 games next year. But for sure this year, best 22, 100%.
Yeah. Brad Grinwis has asked a good question. Does Ed continue to play a traditional tagger's role? What are you picturing from Ed this year in his role? Is it a tagger? Is it just another midfielder, inside midfielder? What's the idea? Round 1, I imagine he's going to have to play this inside mid role because Zachy Williams is out. But for the most part of the year, what are you and you guys at home, what are you seeing with Ed and his role?
I think the club's going to trial him outside of round 1 on the outside a bit more. I'm not sure who's going to pick up that tagging role, but when it inevitably backfires, I think we'll see him in there again, tackling 7 times a week, putting Cochin into the ground, stopping players. I don't know, who does Collingwood have in the midfield? Taylor Adams, I think he's injured, but just he'll be in there. He'll prove that he's too good to not be in there tackling and tagging. Whether it's a traditional run with the entire game, I'm not sure, but he's never really been that. He's always been able to accumulate. He's never been a straight stopper. So. Look, I expect him to end up just doing what he always does. They might experiment with him, but yeah, I don't know who else takes over that role.
Yeah. Yeah. Heath Buck's talking about, same thing. Where does he play? Not a fan of him distributing the ball by foot. And I, for the most part, agree. I mean, he's a rough and rugged kind of guy, in and under. Don't need him kicking that ball inside 50. Probably need him passing to someone like a running Saad or a Williams or a Murphy, who then kicks it inside 50. I think that's the move. But it's going to be interesting because at some point between 2021 and 2022, 23, I feel like we're going to be moving into this period of his career where, okay, do we start playing someone else? Do we start looking ahead? Is the premiership window open? He's a Warrior. You trust him in a final, so it's interesting. I worry a little bit about if he was to have maybe one or two bad games, that people would maybe jump off him pretty quickly. I feel like he's got that type of, not that reputation, but he's not flashy, so people are going to lose faith pretty quickly. Look, end of the day, he's a Warrior for us right now, and we can only live in the moment right now.
Agreed.
All right, so that's Ed Curnow. Let's move along. We've got number 36, the Honey. I know Pommy's in the crowd here. This is his absolute boy of boys. I can already hear him in my ear right now. He's not even in the room. He's somewhere right now, but I can hear him jumping up and down. This kid's got something. He really does. I was happy to see him get his chance last year. What is it about him? Is he in the same situation as Philp, where it's like, go on, son, enjoy developing in the twos, and obviously if the opportunity comes up, he'll play? Or what is it about Josh Honey for 21?
Yeah, in my notes here, I've got speculative player from last year, but definitely has that spark and that determination. There is, as you said, there's something about him. I think he's in a similar situation to Philp, Owies, Durden, Fogarty. Fogarty's arguably at the front of those guys, where they're all competing for essentially Eddie Betts' job, and one of them or two of them are going to have to stand up and take it. I think of those options, well, I'll compare him to Owies for a start. I think he has a few more strings to his bow than Owies. Probably more elite in terms of running and getting around the ground, and probably has some more instinctual footy nous than Owies does. So I think he's a step up there. I'd expect him to run around, kick a couple of goals every week in the reserves for us. I don't think he's going to develop in the seniors, but you bring him in, he's going to have a red-hot crack. And we're going to have injuries this year. We've already had them. It's going to happen. Some of these guys are going to get games, and this is one that I would back in when he gets that opportunity to make the most of it. Yeah,
I agree. I think he has that X factor that very few have. It's just all about taming it. I haven't really heard about him too much in the preseason. I haven't really seen much mention of him, if he's tracking, if he's impressing. I feel the same with Sam Ramsey to an extent. Two young guys that I really like, but I haven't really heard much. Now, is that something to be worried about? Is that something to just sit back and enjoy the fact that there's so many other names? I'm not sure. But when I've seen this guy play, it's just raw talent. And again, these assistant coaches of ours and these development coaches of ours are really going to earn their keep this year. And we're going to find out which of these kids, which of Philp, Honey, Ramsey, which of these kids are actually going to make it and find a way into the ones. Because I feel like with Honey, you look at it, it's now that it's Cunningham, Jack Martin, Zach Fisher. It's these guys where I feel like if he's going to come in, or Jack Silvani, if he's going to come in, he's going to have to force himself over these guys, and Eddie Betts, Fogarty as well. So do I expect him to play this year? I don't have any expectations. I'm going to stop putting expectations on these youngsters. I'd be happy and really I probably would be surprised if he played too many games this year, just because of the pedigree of the guys that I think are ahead of him right now. But yeah, I'm really going to be watching him with a keen eye.
Yeah, agree. I don't see too much senior footy for him this year, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's great that he got a game last year when we were, sort of running low on people to get out on the park, but he got a game, and that's experience for him that he'll be able to use and help develop. And, he's only been in the system for a little while, so he can only get better and more used to the requirements at the level. And yeah, really, of all the guys that are, those speculative will they, won't they players, he's the one I'm probably most excited about.
Yeah, Love it. Some exciting comments here. Frank says that he's got a great pedigree. Uncle is a gold medal winner. Father at Commonwealth Games. Mother netballer. Sister Vixen, a netballer as well. And the other sister a Victorian sprinter. Pommy's gone next level. 1.84 meters of lean speed, silky skills, and sex appeal. Ladies and gentlemen, get around the honey monster. Pom's the best.
He's the greatest.
Oh my gosh, goodness.
His hype video was so good, by the way.
It was. If you haven't checked it out, you go to Pommy in Oz. Actually, Pommy in Oz on YouTube. He's put it up on his YouTube channel. Unless you're on Facebook, check the Blue Abroad group out. Pommy's made a hype up video and he's narrated it as well. So he's chomping at the bit. Bryce Riches, this bench small forward role is going to go to the guy playing the most consistent in the reserves. It's great to have options, but Eddie won't play every week, which allows these players an opportunity to prove themselves again. Very fair, very fair. Just to confirm, Bucky says Uncle is a silver medal behind Carl Lewis. Uncle won the silver medal behind Carl Lewis at the 84 Olympics in the long jump. Very fascinating stat. And speaking of YouTubers, My Blue Heaven on YouTube, you've got to go and check the OG out, Heath Buck. He's got a nice selection panel for the My Blue Heaven MVP medal this year as well. I saw that the other day. So looking forward to what he has in store. Let's move on. Let's move on to number 40. It'll be Michael Gibbons. I'm really keen for this discussion, Lek Dog, because I think he's a great player. I think he's good enough to make it. We're going to have a bit of a debate because I think my opinion is a little bit different to others. Let's just start with a general conversation on where is he at for you and you guys at home, and what are you thinking about him in 2021?
Just before I do, I just want to mention this. We do need to touch on Oscar McDonald, who's number 39 at the end.
We do.
I don't want to skip him.
You're right. You're right.
Gibbo, I love this man. I don't like that he didn't play in the first game. Here's my worry. All right, here's my worry for Michael Gibbons. I don't want him to be a 40 disposal a game player in the reserves, playing in the guts and winning every game for us, and then coming into the senior team and playing out of the goal square like we used to do with him. I'm concerned that he will not get continuity between senior level and reserves level, in that he'll be asked to play a different role, which makes sense. We've got a lot of players in our midfield in the seniors, but I think that's where he plays his best footy. I don't care that he's undersized. Caleb Daniel was overlooked because he was undersized and he's a gun. Higgins was overlooked because he was undersized and he's a crafty forward. I just worry that he's being dismissed. And I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of him. When he's in the middle, we're a better team, in my opinion.
I wholeheartedly agree. We're talking about a two-time Booker T, JJ listed trophy winner as a midfielder, and I just don't think we've given him. Has he played a full game in the guts? And I understand we're hybrid midfield forward guys. I get it. Is it because Mark Murphy's in the side, and if you have Murphy and Gibbons in the midfield, it might be a little, smaller, but now Murphy's playing in this half forward role. Maybe the opportunity's there. I just think we've got to give him at least a shot to prove himself, and I don't know why we haven't.
Maybe there's question marks about his defensive side of his game because he's a bit undersized, and maybe that's what's keeping them out. But I watched us last year. We had a hell of a lot of issues with our defensive side in the midfield. He's one, I agree. I'd just love to see him. Just hand him the keys against Collingwood, or because I'm assuming he's not going to be in Richmond, or whenever he gets into the team. Hand him the keys one game. Just say, you're playing in the guts. Walsh, you're on the outside. Murph, you're up forward. Let's see what happens. I just want to see what he can do, because you see glimpses of it where they put him in the guts, and guess what? It's him getting the clearance. So, and he's got the drive. He doesn't take it for granted. He makes every moment. It feels that he's on the field. He makes every moment, a moment, because he's had to fight for everything. He's had to fight to get on a list. He had to fight to get promoted to the senior list, and he knows what he can do, and I'm sure he wants to do it. But he's also a team player, and he'll do whatever the club asks him. But, geez, I just hand him the keys one day. Come on.
Yeah, I think we had an opportunity to do that in this preseason, and we didn't. I mean, we didn't even play him against St Kilda, which was baffling to me. However, we're talking about right in this moment, and right in this moment, Williams is not playing round one. That's our inside midfielder, whatever you want to call it. Is that the opportunity for Michael Gibbons to get into this team and play that role?
Look, I would love it to be. I don't know if they're going to do that. I think they're going to just push Ed Curnow and Sam Walsh in the midfield into the inside a bit more. I think it's the perfect opportunity. I'd love to see Gibbons there, but we didn't play him, and I just don't know that he's going to feature in round one. He had about 800 disposals in the reserves. He kicked a goal or two as well. So, like, he could do it. It baffles me. There must be something about his game they don't like. But I don't like him as a forward. And maybe he just isn't buying in and doing what they need him to do in the forward role, so they're not going to reward him in the midfield. But I don't know. I think he's been solid.
Yeah, it's interesting. He reminds me, actually, Bucky's actually written this comment just as I was saying it. He said, it took Kane Lambert 2 years before he really exploded. Gibbo is in front of where Lambert was at the same stage. I hope he takes the next step. Smart football. I actually think a lot of Kane Lambert when I think of Gibbo. I really do. Same. I think you touched on it before, Lek Dog. He doesn't play with a sense of entitlement, like a lot of these players do. A lot of these players, they're high draft picks, they're highly touted, they know they've got a bit of a reputation if they have a bad game, it's kind of okay, whereas Gibbons knows a bad game means, you're quickly to be dismissed. He doesn't have that, let's call it a sexy reputation. And I think that's important. I think Lambert obviously came through a very similar pathway, and I just hope we're not giving up on Gibbons. I guess I'm getting paranoid that because he didn't play much in the preseason that we're starting to give up on him. I just really don't want us to do that, because I think on the field he's great. I even think off the field, when you watch the footage and you try and read between the lines, he seems like a bit of the, he's got a bit of energy towards the group. He's not a bad energy in terms of sometimes guys can take it too far and, party too hard or whatnot. He just seems like he's got a good spirit about him, and I think he's good for the group. Again, very speculative. I haven't been on the inside, so I can't really say that with confidence, but I get good vibes from him. Debbie's asking, saying it might be a fitness thing, niggling injury. Well, he did play in that VFL game the reserves game last week. He had 31 touches and 2 goals, which is a great, like, what else can you do?
That's all he can do.
Yeah. What else can you do? So, I don't know. Pommy says, need to VFL boys to make us ask that question, not be picked out of habit. Yeah, fair enough. Jad had a comment here. Maybe Teague has his idea of set of regarding the midfield and Gibbons is not in it. Maybe it's a bit of a stigma he carries, which hurts him as well. Potentially. But if he's playing if he's playing in our reserves,
he's going to win another league best and fairest if he's playing in the reserves.
Absolutely.
The only thing that will keep him out is how many games he misses through playing in senior footy.
Yeah, exactly right. So is he in your round one team?
I'd have to do it. I'd love him to be in there. I think Williams being out probably pushes him in. I have him probably 23rd or 24th. I know a lot of people have Eddie Betts in their team. I don't have him in my current team. So I think I could definitely find a spot for him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. Let's move on. Number 41, Levi Casboult. God, I tell you what, speaking of, in a way, underrated, we forget where he's come from as well. He was a 2012 rookie. He's played 141 games. He's kind of carried this burden of expectation to be a great player. I think born out of the fact that once Favola left, there was no one else that could really play this full forward, role. And he's actually become a life member as well, which I don't know. It hasn't really been announced yet by the club. Maybe they're waiting. But I'm just proud of Levi's story. I know that not everything is about sentiment and it's about winning and whatnot, but sometimes you have to take a step back and just appreciate the Carlton man that he is.
Oh, I love the bloke. I've yelled at him a lot when he couldn't kick for a while there, but I love him. I fell in love with him back when I think he was playing ruck for the Bull Ants or something, and he was this big lumbering dude, and yeah, it's just an awesome story. And look, we know what his best can be. It can be a pretty effective forward. You can pitch it in the ruck. And he played really well when we needed him to swing back behind the ball as well. And hopefully no injuries happen. We don't need him to do that this year. I think my concern for him moving forward this year is obviously already interrupted with some injuries in the preseason and then injuries to other talls. I think, Tom de Koning's out, Harry's question mark, McGovern's injured. I think he's going to get thrown around a bit, or we're going to ask him to be the full forward and kick 50 goals, which he's not going to do. He's at his best when he's cohesively playing with other talls. And look, I want him to have an awesome year. I think he burned out a little bit last year. I'm really buoyant about his prospects, but he is, he's 32 now. Like, we can't expect him to be the All-Australian form we thought he was at the start of last year every week.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look back to his first 4 rounds last year, 2 goals against the Tigers, 1 against Melbourne, but he played really well in the ruck, 2 against Geelong, 3 against Essendon. His first month of football was... I remember them talking about him in the All-Australian conversation. And I know it's very early and the season played out the way it did, but he started on fire. And again, yeah, you're right. He seemed to burn out. I don't know if, the hub situation was something that he was comfortable with. That's the case with a lot of players. But yeah, I'm also with you on the fact that I'm a little mindful of the fact that he hasn't played much in the preseason. Now, optimistically, he's a veteran. He doesn't need too much game time. He's going to be fine. But pessimistically, I would have loved to have seen him play a game. I know he had a few minutes in the intra-club the other day. They had a bit of a match simulation session. It's a fingers crossed with him for round 1. But he does, for me, he's always been someone that needs continuity. He's not someone that can just sort of make it work on the spot. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love for him to come and kick 2 or 3 against Richmond. But for me, Levi is so important.
Oh,
so important.
Absolutely.
He's the ruck cover. He's the ruck cover for us. Like, you don't want Harry in the ruck. You don't want Mitch in the ruck. I know Oscar McDonald's on the list now, and he can pinch hit in the ruck. But ultimately, you probably don't want to be playing Oscar McDonald in the ones if you don't need to. So when Levi plays, he's just such an important cog in it all.
Yeah, he is. And often gets a thankless task. He's gets it bombed on his head every time we go take a spectacular mark over 10 guys, and then please kick it from 50 or the boundary, because that's where we've kicked it to. Oh, and then go and jump in the ruck against Nick Nat for half a game. And yeah, I think you're right. He's super important to our structure, and he provides something that currently no one else in the team, or who looks like they're going to be playing in the team early, can actually do, and that's pinch hit in the ruck, and not just go in and be a body, but he can ruck. He has some ruck craft about him. So super important for us. Really want him to have a successful year, and I think that comes from the other forwards being successful around him. When he's the focal point, I have some concerns.
When Harry's fit, when Mitch is fit, when Levi's fit, are they all playing for you?
I'd like them to. It means we're only running one of the ruckmen. Silvani as well, then is the question mark as well. So it's a tough one. I want Harry Mackay, McGovern, and Levi to all play together. I don't think we're ever going to see that. It just doesn't feel like it's going to happen. I'd love him to play round 1, and I'd love to see how him and Sauce work off each other. So, but yeah, I'd love to play all 3. I don't know how it works. Yeah,
it's a headache. It's a good headache. It's a good headache, but I think now with JSOS fit and healthy, I think there's 3 spots for 4 forwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming that we won't have, we'll have injuries all year, and we've only really got 2 defenders. Well, now we've got Marchbank and Oscar McDonald. We've only got 2 defenders. So there's always going to be a spot for Levi because he can play in 3 different positions. So I prefer him as a forward, but we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And also I know that people are talking about Oscar McDonald as the gap filler. Also, if we have an injury in defence, Levi is well and truly capable of playing in defence. If Jacob Touchwood was to go down, or Liam Jones, I got no issue with Levi filling in there.
No, big body, can read the flight of the ball, can mark. Kicking out of defence would be my worry. But he's a much better field kick than he is kick at goal. I've got in many arguments before he started doing it at senior level, watching the VFL when he was doing it, got in many arguments on Twitter saying he could come in and play defence. And he did, and he was pretty good. I think he's a nice security blanket to have, and I'm always going to be finding a place for him in my team.
Love it. Love it. Well, we love Levi. We hope he has a great year, and we're looking forward to seeing what he can do for us in 2021. Let's move on. Number 42, Alhamdulillah, Adam Saad. 18.8 disposals in 2020, which is elite. He's come from the Bombers. To be honest, he probably should have been at our club 3-4 years ago. He should have picked us from the beginning. Anyway, he's here. I'm excited. We've all seen the highlights. We've seen the run, the dash. It suits the game style. What are your thoughts on Saadi?
Oh, mate, it's pure excitement and elation. I love him. He was the one Essendon player I could stand, and now he's a Carlton player, so I don't even have to watch him anymore. It's fantastic. He, my biggest exciting thing, Newman's out of the team. Nunes is going to be in and out of the team. He's now our designated kick it from outside 50 player. We haven't had a really good one of them since Zach Tui left. So whenever we're in trouble, we're just going to handball it over to him. He's going to roost it from 60, and we'll be sweet. He's going to be a bloody game breaker for us. I'm excited. I'm so excited for this man. Do you have any question marks? I know I watched you talk about him, about how he can grow with Doherty and defending. What are your question marks over him?
Yeah, so before I touch on that, I will touch on it right now. So I'm happy with him. He's exactly what we needed. I think he's perfect. He's going to fit in great. I think, personally, this is just my opinion, I think he needs some time to gel with Doc, because I think he and Doc are now the Doc and Cade Simpson duo on either side. I remember the chemistry between the two of them was great. And I think there's going to be a little bit of leadership needed from Doc here. He might not necessarily need to take a step back, but I mean, we've brought Saad in to be the attacking halfback flanker. Right? That's my assumption. That's what he's at the club for. Doc is that. He is that for us, but he's also more of a conductor and a captain of the back line, and he just sets everybody up. So I just feel like the two of them are going to need to learn each other's movements. They obviously are playing on opposite sides of the ground in terms of their preferred foot. So I think they complement each other perfectly. But I just saw at times, particularly against St Kilda, I saw, just some moments where Saad wasn't in position. Now, was it because he was going at, 15% less or 20% less than his maximum effort? Maybe. But I did notice just some moments where he was out of position. Is that just a synergy thing? Is it a chemistry thing? I'm not worried about it, but I think it's going to take a little bit of time for him to really adjust to the game day, because really they've only played together, as a back 6 or 7 for two games of football, and both of them have not been for 4 points.
Yeah. Look, I agree totally. I think the gelling period will be pretty quick. I know through connections, I know I sort of know of Adam, and he's a really humble dude, and he's a really relaxed guy, super chill, and I don't think with any hesitation, if the club or Doc asks him to do something, I think he'll adapt, and I think it's going to be a pretty smooth transition. I think. And when they get it right, we saw what Simo and Doc did a couple of years ago, or a few years ago now. I think it's going to be a delectable little halfback line we're going to have there. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, well, mate, you look at the St Kilda game last year. That was really where it all unravelled, arguably, for our game plan of moving it from defence, because Brett Ratton figured out what to do with Sam Doherty, and we didn't have that next player. Now, okay, you might want to lock down Sam Doherty this year, but Adam Saad, you can't lock both of them down, right? You cannot tag both of them, and I think that's where they'll help each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think teams sort of figured out our defence last year. You're right, and it was that St Kilda game. Jaron Geary bloody played on Doc and kicked like 3 goals or something. I mean, he's never played forward in his life. Anyway, we don't need to talk about that. But you lock up. Go on, play on Doherty. That's fine. Adam Saad's going to run at 200 metres the other way. I'm perfectly happy with that. And you know what? We might even throw Willow back there. He can have a run too. I think it really strengthened us. We missed it a bit last year because Simo wasn't wasn't the same player. You know, we were hiding him a little bit. He was more of the controlled kick. The dash sort of disappeared, and Saad's going to bring that back. So I think we're going to be much better for having him in the team.
Yeah, fair enough. Bucky says, it's understandable, but Saad looked lost at times against the Saints. We need to clearly define his role like the Tigers did and do with Hooley. He needs to defend, but we need others to cover for him. He's our most damaging commodity. Could not agree more. I think that's absolutely spot on. Whether it's run and carry or kicking the ball long. Actually, question. I'll ask you and I'll ask everyone in the audience to put a comment. There's been a bit of debate around us as a fan base bringing back the Wolf. I think it's for Willow personally. But I've also seen that it could be for Saad. For you guys watching at home, can you just put a comment with a name? Saad or Willow? Who should the Wolf be appointed to? Or both? What do you think, Lekdog?
I think the Wolf's situational. I prefer it when, like, if Saad's kicking from 60, I'm going to yell Wolf, right?
Okay.
But if he's chip kicking at 15 meters in the back pocket, I'm probably not going to Wolf. Yep. So I'm a situational woofer, but it's a very on the fence answer. I don't mind.
It's so diplomatic.
Yeah. I'm not against Saad having it. I'm not against Willow having it. I want it to come naturally. The first time I do it, I'll let you know. That will be my answer.
Okay. Yeah. I like it.
Do you have a preference?
I think it's Willow because I think Willow's got the cult hero status, or potential cult hero status. I don't know. Maybe also because I've got that extra love and affection for Willow, given he's been at the club for longer and he's battled back from what he's had to come through. But I think first of all, it needs to come back. And I think it needs to go to one player. I don't know if we could, because I mean, Willow's got a booming kick, Saad's got a booming kick, Doc has a booming kick, but ultimately I think it's got to go to one. Even Williams has a booming kick. It's probably got to go to one player. But I did want to get a bit of a sample size of what people think. Is it Willow? Is it Saad? Is it both? What have we got here? Before I get onto the reactions to that, Pommy says, Adam Saad is what Austin was talking about. The someone structurally important. Teams we conceded the run to were high pressers. The Saints pushed back when we ran at them. He's the number one bounce taker in the AFL. Very, very good point. Got a couple of Willows here. Bucky says, Saad, you need a wind up. That's very true. Saad definitely has a wind up. He winds it up for 3 or 4 bounces before he kicks that damn thing.
Yeah, we'll be woofing for 10 minutes as he runs up the
field. Because we've lost a cruise, we've lost the sound. I think we need to appoint it to someone else. And the crowd is coming back this year, and the noise is coming back. Debbie says, does it need to come back? What about something original? Different view. Hey, I like it, Deb. I like it.
Not against it.
I think she's right. Whether it's the Wolf or something else, I think that we need something else from the fan base. I have digressed. I apologize. But with Saad, is he in my mind, I'm thinking he's a 20 to 23 possession a game type player, 450 to 550 meters gained per game type player. Is that fair for you, or do you see it a bit different?
I think he's closer to a 18, 19 disposal a game player. That's what he's done over his career. I think he's averaged for his career something like 17. But he's going to have the impact and the meters gained as if he was getting 23 kicks a game because he covers that much distance. I think we can expect. And by the way, we've been talking about, covering him in defense and stuff. He's not a terrible one-on-one defender. It's just not his one wood. His one wood is running really fast with the ball and kicking really fast. So I think we're going to see him, averaging about 17, 18 disposals a game. He'll be our leading meters gained player most weeks, if I had to hazard a guess, and I think he'll chip in for a goal every game or two. So I'm really excited. He makes us obviously he walks in and becomes our best 22. It's been a while since we've had players come in and lift our ceiling, and he does that. So does Zach Williams.
Yeah, absolutely. No, totally agree. I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped for him. He's going to rock the MCG next Thursday.
Plus, he brings sort of a hype factor. The stuff he does on the field, it's going to excite his teammates. It's going to excite the fans. That's something you can't put a stat on, but he's going to lift. He's going to lift us.
You've just sparked something in my memory I wanted to touch on with Saad. I feel like he is going – it's infectious. when players take the game on and run the way he does and the way Williams do, it's infectious. And I think one of the many beneficiaries, but one of the main beneficiaries to having Adam Saad is going to be Sam Petrevski-Seton. Because I think Saad's idea is whenever he disposes of the ball, he's running on to get it. I feel like that type of effort and intensity in running is something that Sam Petrevski-Seton can add to his game to go to that next level off the halfback flank. I know I don't want to get into the Samo being a midfielder, halfback flanker. We've had that discussion. He's a halfback flanker, as we know right now. For Samo to take that game to the next level, I think Adam Saad is the prototype.
Yeah, maybe we've been talking about it all wrong. Maybe we've been talking about Doherty and Saad as the 1-2. Maybe it's SPS and Saad that are the 1-2 that feed off each other, and Doc just chooses which one gets to start the chain. Like, it's exciting. I can't believe it had forgotten about SPS or not thought to bring him up. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I think Saad will drive his motivation. I'm hoping so on the field, and then I think on the times where SPS does push up the ground, I think Williams is going to do a similar thing. I think we've brought in some really high energy players that they're going to leave everything out on the park.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Oh, mate, I'm pumped. Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait to see him running around. Let's move on, though. Another guy I'm very excited about. This is low-key a good group. I thought the last few were not as exciting, but low-key very much loving this group. Number 43, Will Setterfield. Really solid 2020. Went back on the inside after a year in the wing. Seemed to be experimenting with this defensive wing role, sweeping, interceptor throughout this 2021 preseason. Is that something you think he's going to continue to do this year, or what are your thoughts on him this year?
Yeah, so last year was one of probably our most improved player, I'd say. Or you can't, I mean, it was probably Wiedering or Walsh, but they're the top of the food chain. You can't talk about them. I think he was our most improved. I've actually got him pegged to be our most improved again. I think they're going to play him a lot on the outside, and as you said, we've seen some sweeping stuff in the preseason, and I think he's just going to add another string to his bow, add to that outside game. The worry was his disposal by foot. The eye test to me says that he's improved that a bit, and I'm hoping it can continue to improve. We know what he does on the inside. He tackles a lot, and he's good at finding the ball on the inside. I'm not sure how effective he actually is in terms of winning for us. He obviously tackles a lot, gets disposal on the inside, but I don't know how actually conducive that is to winning. I'm hoping we can see him add a string to his bow on the outside, can push up the ground. When he first came to the club, we tried to play him up forward a bit. He wasn't great at kicking goals. I'm hoping that, I'm not expecting 100 goals for the season, but I'd love, 10 to 15 goals from him just to add to those contributors across the board. I've got really high hopes for him. I think maybe it's not going to show up in the stats. He's not going to go from a 15 disposal game to 30 disposals a game. But I really think he's going to be a huge improver for us and be a really, really cemented part of our best 22.
Yeah, I think he is just a footballer, a natural footballer. I think from what I've seen, and again, this is just an observation and I want to refine the thought with you guys. I sort of saw him in this preseason, so the Essendon game and the St Kilda game. I kind of saw him playing the Jack Noons role from last year, just kind of spreading, covering, being, one kick away from where the ball is, making sure he's covering the ground. Pom did a heat map of the Essendon game and he had like 24 touches. He was everywhere, just sweeping. It wasn't the same inside red zone in the middle like it was last year. And it's tough to know if that's going to translate into round one. I know that Williams is out round one, so maybe it's out of necessity. Setterfield goes right into the thick of it again. But when Williams is in that mix, is that where we have to move Setterfield out? There's a guy, good fella, Nigel Appleboom, if I pronounced that right. He had a concern about Setterfield, whereby he said that we've put Walsh back on the ball, and as a result, Setterfield's come off the ball, it seems. And we're doing it just to obviously nurture Walsh and grew him into the superstar. I don't know. I'm not so worried about that right now or just yet, because I think Setterfield showed some really good signs as a sweeping, intercepting, spreading type player, just to cover the ground and maybe to set up a kick behind the ball so we don't have those run-ons. Because the reality is, you mentioned it before, when we turn that ball over, it comes back really quickly because of the way we set up. So is Setterfield going to be someone that fills that gap? And I guess what I'm getting at is I seem to have more questions than what I do answers about what he's going to do this year.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I'm not 100% sure what they're going to do with him. I think they've seen him on the inside. You know, he's a great accumulator, or he's a good accumulator, great tackler. When you play that contested role, you know, in 2019, he was like, had the most clangers in the league or something like that. Like, I think putting him on the outside, maybe we see that he's actually not a terrible disposal of the ball. I think when I watch him, and, you know, when he started and everyone was saying, oh, he's the next Cooter, that's not just because it helps that he wore the same number, but it's not just because he had 43 on his back. It's because he has something. He has some attributes and some those, you know, long arms, the powerful legs. I think he's just going to be a good footballer for us. I'm not expecting him to be a superstar. I don't expect him to be the best player ever, but I think he's just going to be a good footballer. And you know what? It's been a while since we've had just good footballers in the team. And I'm really excited to see. And if it doesn't work on the outside for him and in a sweeping role, they'll put him back in the guts, and he'll get, you know, 7 tackles a game. And maybe it's Ed then that is on the outside. Like, there's enough room in this team for. I think there's still experimentation. I don't think we're going to see young reserve level players, first year, second year players developing in the seniors. But I think we're going to see a lot of these, you know, mid-tier players developing in the seniors and playing a range of roles. So yeah. I haven't actually answered any questions there, but I have said a lot of words.
No, you've sparked something in my head, because I'm thinking, is he the Ed Curnow replacement? Can you have him and Ed in the midfield with Cripps and Williams? Is that too much? Is it you know, is I guess we just don't know where he is yet, because we've seen him play this quarterback-ish role that Pommy just mentioned here. It's kind of bringing up some question marks. And look, it's going to happen. Like, there's going to be role changes. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be things that happen. I mean, I know that we want to play Williams in the guts. I know that Teague has already said if it doesn't work, he's going to go to halfback. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and that's the way it's going to be. But the main point is what you said. He's a good footballer. Can he go to that next level? I think Bucky's asked it here. At the moment, he's possibly a B grader. Can he get to A grade? Great question. If he can, we're laughing. We're playing finals football. But if he's still going to be a B grader, then, you know, that's also okay, as long as we have the right pieces around him.
You can win with B graders. You just need everyone to be a B grader or better. Until recently, or even now, we don't have that across the board. It's still a very uneven distribution of talent across our best 22. Our guns are really good, and our borderline 22 players are borderline 22 players. And yeah, Setters is right now smack bang in the middle. I think he's got really high upside, and he's still young. It looks like he's over a lot of the injuries had. I think he could become a really good player. But if he's just a good player, I'm probably still okay with it. It will raise development questions, but that, you know, he's a mature boy already.
Yeah, fair. I'm excited to see what happens with him. Let's move on. Number 44, the baller, Matthew Owies. He was selected in, I think it was 2018. It was Category B selection. He's a guy that played some basketball, high-level basketball as well. Played at Hawaii University for a few years, and then he decided to come back to Australia and chase the AFL dream. I will say this about him. I had a good chat with him at the season preview event. He looks so much more comfortable at the football club than when I first met him a few years ago. He was obviously very timid and whatnot, but I don't know if he's going to be the surprise. He could be the surprise packet of the group. Who knows? But what are you thinking about with Owies in 21 and beyond?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be much of the same from Owies. I'm glad he got a crack last year. I'd be surprised if he got a crack this year. You know, people were calling, not a lot of people, but people were calling for him to play last year, including myself, because you read the reports and he kicks 3 goals every game in the VFL or the reserves or the practice matches. And that's really good. And I think he'll do that again this year. He'll go and he'll kick 3 goals. 2 will be from the goal square over the top, and 1 will be a set shot every game. But I just think that the other aspects of the game that come more naturally to guys who have played their whole life or haven't had an entire another sport to dedicate themselves to aren't quite there. Those instinct things, I think he's I'd assume, I don't know the running patterns, but I assume his running patterns are really solid and he sticks to the game plan and he does everything that's required of him. I would love to see him, relax a bit on the field, if that makes sense, in the reserves, and just go with the flow a little bit more and see if that unlocks, 4 or 5 more touches a game. But yeah, I don't expect much from him. I don't expect anything from him this year. Anything is a bonus. And that's not because he's bad or anything. It's just because he's probably the, 42nd player on our list at the moment. And, but yeah, he's going to kick a lot of goals in the VFL.
I think someone mentioned it before. As long as these guys in the reserves are just pushing, I think that's what you want from him. I feel like he's going to start there. I'm pretty confident in saying he's going to start in that situation, and he's going to continue to just push his way. He's coming from where he's coming from, but I'd like to say at the end of the year, Owies, I think he's going to be able to, make it and crack in. I think this is now his, third year? This is his third year on the list.
Believe, yeah.
So then I asked the question, how long does a Category B experiment last? I don't really have the stats in front of me. What's the patience? What's the timeline? What are the goals? How do we as fans judge the Category B rookie situation?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that because it seems like the turnover is pretty high in most clubs. I think you touched on it just then. The best thing that Matt Owies can do is play his absolute guts out and make our senior boys start sweating. Make an Eddie Betts start worrying and working harder. Make the guys who are ahead of him in the VFL, make a Josh Honey or make a Sam Philp if they're ahead of him, sweat like, this guy's pushing. I need to lift my game so that, I want my name on the board, not his. If that's all he does, if all he does is make everyone else work harder, then I'm happy. I'd love him to be a huge success. He hasn't shown that yet. He has played senior football, and that's more than most bloody people have ever done it. So, my expectations are low, but I'd love him to just be pushing, as you said.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if we're seeing reports of him kicking 2 to 3 goals for 3 to 4 weeks in a row, that's going to get you in the selection window. That's really what it's going to be all about, because we know, Fish, we love Fish, but can he kick 1 or 2 goals every week? Cunningham the same. Fogarty's going to be in that boat as well. I'm starting to think now, all of a sudden there's quite a few small forwards on this list.
There is. We went from having none to about 37.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, but we'll see how this one plays out. I'm very keen to see how he goes. He's a great fella, really good dude. Next up, the second last one for the evening is Matty Cottrell, Mr. What do you call him? Does he have a nickname? What is he? He's Mr. Carlton. He's so young. He's so young.
He's 4 years old legally. He's born on a leap year, isn't he?
He's just
February 29th. He's 3 years old and he's playing AFL footy. That's pretty impressive.
He has just turned 21. He's kicked a goal after just to win a game. He's had a game winner. He's taken a pack mark. He's really endeared himself. He's living actually, this is what he is. He is Mr. Living My Best Life. He's one of us, and he's living his best life, and he's done it on the stage. He's won a game for his footy club. But real talk, he's got some tools. He's an elite runner, and he always has been. I think maybe he just needs to add the size and the stature, and his ability to win the ball has probably got to elevate as well. Bucky mentioned before about a specialist wing type role. Now that we've got Saad, now that we know Samo's back there, I'm not sure if the halfback flank is a place where Matt Cottrell will be playing, but is he someone that can step up into a wing role for us?
I hope so. I honestly think, regardless of what his disposal efficiency is, or what his stats is, if he pushes into our best 22, we're going to be a better team. He's an energy. He's a pocket rocket. He stood up in one of the biggest moments for our season. If that was me, if A had to go for the mark, would have got knocked out, and B had to kick the goal, would have shanked it off the side of my beat. But he stood up, no fear, yarnest it, kicked the goal, mate. I want that in my team. He has to earn it. He has to push himself in there. And if he can, we're going to be a better team for it. And I think you're right. I don't think he's got a chance getting into the back six if we're all healthy. But yeah, there is a specialist spot available, and maybe he can fill that. Yeah,
like he kind of is he that Noons type player that's just spreads around the ground and he's just everywhere. I think also, yeah, the game winner last year, that ability mentally, not everyone has that. Not everyone has that ability when the pressure's on. Can you take the moment and make it yours? Not everyone is. I really firmly believe you cannot teach that. And I know he had a shocking game prior to that moment, but if you've got that in you, if you're able to take that moment in such a pressure situation with so much on the line, there's got to be something to work with there. And I really do believe that. He's a player that I knew nothing about 12 months ago. I literally remember doing the preview last year and talking to Nick Wishart and him telling me this kid will play football in 2020 and me saying, I don't know anything about him. I don't know if he's going to play. He proved me wrong. I love it when players prove wrong and prove us wrong. But yeah, what does he need to do to get into the side and stay in the side? What is the statistical type, like rough averages? What does he actually need to be providing us?
Yeah, that's a really tough one. I don't know. If he wants to get on a wing, what's he going to need to be averaging? 15 touches a game? We saw him. His best was against the Dockers last year was 14 touches. He's not a huge tackler from the limited sample size we've seen. I think you're probably going to need to be getting 15 touches, doing exactly what the team wants, putting his head down when it's required, going, head over the ball stuff. I think he's going to be a guy that I don't think stats are important, but I think you're going to know with him when it's time. And it's going to be when every week you're reading, oh, he was courageous. He, stood up for the team. He sacrificed his game to help, player X. I don't think it's going to be stats that gets him in. And yeah, he really, I just love him. I love him. And he's born on February 29th. He's 4 years old or whatever. I love him.
Yeah. Same. Heath Buck says here, the two-way running. That's the thing. And that's actually exactly right. And if he's getting 15 touches a game, that's not going to look sexy for us. But if he's doing the two-way running, that's where he can help us definitely, because he could be potentially a key to helping us when we turn that ball over. Because as we've said a couple of times tonight, we turn that ball over in such dangerous situations. Is it because of the way we play? Is it because of the way we set up? But yeah, his two-way running is definitely something that can't be questioned.
Oh, mate, if we picked our best 22 off their ability to, run two ways, we'd have about 6 players in our team against Richmond. It's not something a heap of, maybe I'm being too general, but it's not something I think a heap of our players do well. Cottrell, if he can do that, yeah, hey, he got a spot in my team.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like it. I'm pumped. I'm pumped to see what moment he brings us this year. I really am.
Mate, if there was a top shot moment, he's going to be one of the rare ones.
Okay. There's Matty Cottrell. The final piece, because he's just been added to the list, is number 39, Oscar McDonald. Lek Dog, I'm going to be dead honest with you. So after the Essendon game, I said to myself, it has to be Callum Moore because Pitto didn't play, or Pitto was niggly. Obviously, TDK's out. Moore had to be selected because he can contest the ruck, whereas I didn't think Oscar McDonald can really contest the ruck. It's just not his go. That's how I saw it. After the Saints game, I had this predisposition about what I saw in the Essendon game, and it didn't allow me to appreciate his game against the Saints. At the end of the day, he's presents a lot better than what Callum Moore does as a forward. Do I want him in the ruck? I don't, but he was the choice for me. Yeah. So what do we say about him? Is this something that is a fault of the club for not replacing Cruiser from the outset, or what are you seeing from Oscar?
Well, my nickname for him, I wrote at the game, was Goat Mac. I was pretty high on him at the game. I'll say that. And you're right. I was the same as you. I didn't think either one of them probably deserved to be on the list. I thought they'd give it to Callum Moore because he's been in the system. He's a bit taller, yada, 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 whatever. Oscar McDonald, he played his hard out against St Kilda. He was playing for his AFL career, and he played okay. He what did he have? I don't have the stats in front of me, but he had a solid game here. I'll pull them up. So he had 13 disposals, kicked 2 goals, which is double his career total for goals. So had the game of a lifetime, got the last spot on our list, and I think that's all we can really look at him as. He shouldn't be a ruckman because let's look at his career hitouts. 3. He's not a ruckman. He's a tall, loose defender who we're going to play as a forward ruck like we do, square peg, round hole a lot of the time. Look, he's the GOAT, and I love him. I'm all around him. I hated him 2 weeks ago. Now I love him. Hopefully he's not in our best 22. Hopefully we've got our tools back and he doesn't need to play. You're right, though, Tez. We said it at the time. I have no idea why we didn't get an actual replacement for Cruiser. I know we had Pitnet. I know we had Tom DeConnick, but why didn't we get another mature age ruckman? You can pick him up anywhere. Why didn't we?
It's tough because you never want to be looking back. You always want to be looking forward. But like when the thing is happening in the moment, look, there is a notion as well that, if Wiedering or Jones were to go down, yes, Levi is an option, but Levi might be someone that they want to have as a forward this year. Oscar, the reality is Oscar McDonald played in that Melbourne side in 2018. He played in the prelim. He had a pretty solid year for them. So he's, in terms of what he has achieved on the field at AFL level compared to what Callum Moore has achieved on the field at AFL level, Oscar's clearly done more. No pun intended. But look, he's going to be, for me, and this is no disrespect to Oscar, but if we line up in round 1 and Harry doesn't come up and Oscar's got to play, just, it's a breaking case of emergency situation, and that would be an emergency.
Yeah, we need every game he plays for the Carlton Blues, he needs to play like he's playing for his career like he did against St Kilda. And if he does that, we will get a okay return, an acceptable return. One thing I wanted to note about this guy is that, where we've come as a club, so he's a guy of this caliber, Oscar McDonald, he's been in another club for many years, played finals, fought his way into our last list spot, the last spot we had on the list. You look at us 4 years ago, 5 years ago, he would have been a walk-up start when Brendan Bolton was coaches. We had guys like Aaron Mullett playing, or going back a bit. We had Daniel Gorringe in the team. Like, we have come somewhere as a club where Oscar McDonald isn't our star recruit of the off-season. So I'm happy as a club that, we filled out a list and he's probably the last spot on it. And he's an AFL footballer.
That is a great point that I've never thought about. Honestly, that's put the perspective. When sometimes you hear something and it just hits you in the face, like, oh, that was that. You're right. If he's the last player on the list, the very last player on the list for this football club, from where it's come from, I think that's a good point. We needed a big, we needed a tall, we needed another body. Our bigs are just falling, just like flies. You're right. I'm happy to have him. I'm not expecting much of him. I wish him all the very best. He's got a very famous number on his back. And look, hey, he gets a spot now. He gets a chance. He's got that sense. He will now experience his 2021 with, hopefully, he won't have a sense of entitlement whatsoever. And that's the mentality that you want to have from everyone. Not everyone should have an entitled mentality. So, from that point of view, I'm with you. That's a very good point, and I take that on board, and I hope he goes well.
My bold proclamation is that he forces himself to be ahead of Caleb Marchbank by the end of the year.
Oof.
I know people aren't going to like that, but I got to throw out something spicy.
Hey, to be great, you've got to be available, and Marchie just hasn't been available. So, yeah, it's a good point. Let Dog, I've had a blast, mate. I've had an absolute ball tonight.
Oh, it's been awesome, Tez. Thanks for having me.
No, you're very much welcome. You're very much welcome. Those of you at home, we begin. We're back Monday evening. We're in the studio. It'll be a 7 p.m. show. We will be back, the round 1 preview. I've got Mr. Paul Sebastiani with me in the studio. and the G-Up happens. It's here. Round 1 is here. Crowds are back. The Blues are back. I can't wait. I really can't wait. I don't want to waffle on too much, but thanks for being a part of all of this throughout the preseason. I know it's been a long one. We've been speculatively talking all preseason, but the real stuff starts now. We'll see you there. Let Dog, thanks a lot, mate. Where can we find you online, mate? Where can we plug you online?
Oh, mate, just on Twitter at LecDogSC. You'll see all my stuff. And if you want to head to jockreynolds.com.au, that's where all my fantasy, or not my, all of our team's fantasy and Supercoach content goes. So that's really where you'll see me. And you might see me streaming on Twitch, opening packets of cards that I can't afford. It's going to be sick.
Love it. Are you streaming tonight?
No, not tonight. I couldn't find a pack of cards, but we pulled these. I don't know if you can see those. Sam Walsh and Jack Martin live on stream. They were huge pulls. Looking forward to doing the next one. I'll tweet it out.
Fantastic. All right, guys. See you Monday evening.